Greetings, one and all. This is Dr. Jonathan Ellerby with a special message on what is Mother's Day in the United States, which probably tells me that not a lot of people will see this live, but I have a pretty good feeling a lot of people will watch it over time because our relationship to our mothers, our expectations of mothers, mothers' expectations of us, whether we have mothers in our lives or not, and so on, really form the foundation of so much of our identity, our psychology, and what liberates and blocks us in life. So, we're going to dive into this. I have a poem that I'd like to read to get started. And if you don't know a lot about me, you can check out my website, jonathanellerby.com. Don't forget to pick up your free copy of my new book, Spiritual Experience. Let's take a breath and dive in. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Nice breath just to get settled, slow down. Feel yourself arriving to the stillness and the silence inside you. For this short time we have together, let all your worries rest. Let all that you have to do subside. And in this quiet moment, let us take some time to open our hearts and minds to the possibility that there is a greater relationship to motherhood and mothers in this world than what we have yet considered. Taking this moment to feel gratitude for all the people that have been like mothers to us in our lives, gratitude for our mothers, regardless of the story. Today, prayers and feelings of forgiveness, respect, asking for forgiveness, love, compassion. And so together we open our minds and hear this beautiful poem by David Whyte that sets the stage for today's lessons. It's called Farewell Letter. She wrote me a letter after her death, and I remember a kind of happy light falling on the envelope as I sat by the rose tree on her old bench at the back door, so surprised by its arrival, wondering what she would say, looking up before I could open it, and laughing to myself in silent expectation. Dear son, it is time for me to leave you. I'm afraid that the words you are used to hearing are no longer mine to give. They are gone and mingled back in the world where it is no longer my power to be their first original author and not their last loving bearer. You can hear motherly words of affection now only from your own mouth, and only when you speak them to those who stand motherless before you. As for me, I must forsake adulthood and be bound gladly to a new childhood. You must understand this apprenticeship demands of me an elemental innocence from everything I ever held in my hands. I know your generous soul is well able to let me go. You will, in the end, be happy to know my God was true, and I find myself, after loving you all so long, in the wide, infinite mercy of being mothered myself. P.S. All your intuitions are true. So this poem by David Whyte really just beautifully sets the stage for kind of a simple but pretty big and profound lesson that I'd like to share today. Some of you actually might have even heard me or joined me for the Althea Sunday gathering. And in many ways, this is just a real quick recap of that because I do believe it's an important message. So Something we've explored here on the 12 at 12 is the idea that every human being really has a kind of layered experience of life. And more than that, there are layers to our identity and layers to our experience of the world. So the three layers that we've talked about in the past are the conditional, the essential, and the universal. The conditional means that we all have a kind of very human, very earthy, very conditioned way of seeing, feeling, and reacting to the world. And then we have something more essential, and that means that's something core to who we are, like core personality. It's like our soul. And then finally we have this universal place that unites us with all beings, the place in which we can experience spirit, consciousness directly. In the same way, we can relate to the idea, the experience, and even the act of mother on all three levels. So when you look at your relationship to the idea, the experience, the act of mothering in your life, it's important to see it on all three levels so that you can come to a wholeness in yourself. And I do believe without all three levels, it's very difficult to experience wholeness in ourselves. And more so, specifically, we cannot do so without coming to peace in our relationship with the mothering energy in our life. So the conditional experience is basically you and your mom, the woman who gave birth to you. For some of you, you never knew her. For some of you, you knew her and wish you didn't. And for some of you, you loved your mom and all is well. But regardless of the condition of the conditional relationship to mom, we must do the work to make peace with what we have absorbed from that experience. And even the greatest relationships and what you might consider the worst relationships all have gifts and traps built within. Many times when I have coaching clients who had wonderful parents and perfect mothers, I can see a huge complicated web of neuroses that emerge out of having a perfect mom, right? Self-expectation, self-doubt, not living up to things, the fact that maybe the mom that was so perfect kind of muted or hid a lot of her real self in the shadow. And so if it looks all good, then it's very hard to get at the truth of the whole human being in them and ourselves. The opposite is also true. In really difficult, tragic relationships with mothers, we forget, by focusing on the loss, the abundance of love that we've received in other forms, the many ways that that circumstance called out other gifts or talents in ourselves, and the way we are who we are today because of that. And by that I include our strengths. So coming to peace with the conditional relationship with time-limited, flesh-bound human moms, it's just part of the deal. And I recommend today, no matter where you're at in this journey, that you offer forgiveness, you offer love and respect, and of course, as you need, you forgive yourself and ask for forgiveness if that's part of the story. In the end, we've heard it a million times, it's hard to take it to heart, but we must remember with our parents that each one did the very best they could, believe it or not, the very best they could, given their situation, their childhood, their abuse, their household, their culture, their time period. But to hold that and have more strength and perspective in dealing with that, it's helpful to move to the essential level. And that's where we start to realize that the archetype of mother transcends any one person. In fact, I would say a huge number of mothers in this world aren't particularly attracted to the mother archetype. Now, they might be good, loving moms, but they're not necessarily feeling that consciousness in the same welcoming way as others. For some people, being a mother is literally all they ever wanted to do. And for some people, they have all kinds of dreams and aspirations and work and talent. And then being a mother is one of those things. We start to recognize that motherhood, is a constellation of archetypes, energies, awarenesses, and behaviors that actually can be held by anyone. Your father could have been more of a mother. A teacher could have been a mother. A pet, in some ways, could actually be a mother. A friend. We can be mothering to ourselves, and we can be mothering to the world. And what that means is we move from mum, the noun, to mum, the verb. Okay? In the essential view, mother is a way of being. It's an attitude and a consciousness that is kind of like the active feminine. It's strong, it's enduring, it's nourishing, it embraces time and the need for process, it loves unconditionally, and it doesn't need answers from the mind. It wants to connect from the heart. But before we finish, we've got one more step to take, and that is to move into the universal relationship to mother. The universal relationship to mother is where we move from mum, the person, to mum, the behavior and archetype, or attitude and archetype, into mom, the energy. Mother, the consciousness of life itself. And in that way, when we recognize that life itself, God, spirit, energy, carries the very qualities that we long for in our idealized mother, we realize that we can actually get what we need anytime without our mom, without knowing how to do it perfectly, and just by listening, connecting, and allowing ourselves to be surrendered and engaged with the natural flow and spirit of life. In the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching, there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful passages that you'll find that really articulate this kind of consciousness. The idea that the mothering spirit, the divine mother, actually exists above and beyond us all, and that it's ever present and always available. It doesn't matter what your human experience is or what your psychology is. If you learn to listen, if you intentionally open your heart and look for it, you will see, feel, and find the mothering awareness everywhere in this world. And that's why it blossoms, regardless of culture or male dominance or masculine energy. The mothering force is a part of our earth. It's a part of our plant world. It's a part of the mothering spirit that shows up in tradition after tradition as the Divine Mother, or as Mother Mary, or as Durga, or Kali, or Sita. Mother consciousness is embedded in our universe, and many would say it is the foundational energy of our universe. So, we're out of time for today, but it is an important thing to reflect on and consider. Do, if you're watching this actually on Mother's Day, do enjoy your Mother's Day and all that goes with it, the challenges, the rigors, especially if you are a mom, the thanklessness that often happens, and find peace with that conditional relationship to mothering and motherhood through these deeper dimensions. Your ability to see the archetype as unbound to conditions, and your ability to access the energy as independently available to each and every one of us every day and everywhere. So on that note, my love to mothers everywhere, regardless of your gender or your role. If you feel you have mothered in this life, blessings to you and thank you.